FullTiltPoker.net presents Learn from the Pros.
All right, if you really want to learn something special, just clean out the wax in your ears. Listen up for the next few minutes because we have assembled a great round table along with Howard Lederer. Sitting to the professor's left is Daniel Negreanu, the 2004 Player of the Year. Also, you've been knighted by Wynn for...
Well, I'm actually the poker ambassador.
Oh, poker ambassador.
Vegas, right.
Okay, I thought that was like royalty over there, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, it's good to see you again.
You too.
Phil Hellmuth, better known around here as the poker icon.
Ooh.
Won it all in '89.
Ooh.
9 bracelets. Anything else I can do for you?
Oh man, that's good.
Okay, Phil Gordon, of course, he is the host of Celebrity Poker, also an author, also a champion on WPT Tour. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Good to see you again. Another TV guy up here. I like that.
My pleasure.
And Cloney Gowan as well. Burst onto the scene a couple of years ago. Big win over Annie Duke and Jennifer Harmon, among others. How are you?
I'm doing great.
All right, guys. Table image. I guess it's the image you're trying to present out there, not you going nuts and whining at the table that they tell me that you occasionally do. But what is table image, Phil Gordon?
The classic image that you want to project, I think, is the tight, aggressive player. I think that really sets you up for a lot of success. It allows you to bluff when you need to. It also encourages your opponents to play more carefully against you. You really don't want a lot of conflict at the table. These guys all win poker tournaments by stealing people's blinds. As a tight, aggressive player, you get away with it more often than other people.
So you're saying the table image is the poker playing style that you present to the other people at the table.
Exactly.
Phil Ivey, when he describes that, I agree with him so much when he says, people, what's your strategy when you come to the table? He says, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. You have to be chameleon-like and adapt to different situations. So a lot of the time, that might be the right perfect strategy. On other times, you might want to play the image of the wild, crazy guy because you know these guys are itching to give away their chips, as Phil would say. They're just looking to give me their money. So you might want to show a few bluffs. You might want to look like the wild man and then look to trap them. Conversely, the image that you're looking for, you have to be aware of it and exploit it. Every different type of table image is exploitable if you do it properly.
Right. And I think Daniel, I like the image of being a very tight player. Now, unfortunately, the television cameras are always rolling, and they show some of the
unfortunately
ridiculous bluffs.
By the way, that's not going to
Nice try, right?
They show some of those ridiculous bluffs that I try to make and get away with sometimes. And I'd say that every player has a different table image they want to portray. Daniel had a very interesting table image for a long time there where he would just call other people's raises. So he had a very loose image that he was able to use to his advantage. And then he would start just calling with pocket aces and pocket kings. He switched his strategy a little bit, but that wasn't a bad way to play either.
But Cloney, how tough is it for young poker players, amateurs out there, to kind of change gears and become a chameleon?
Well, I think it's probably very tough for them to change gears because if they're reading a lot of the books that are out there these days, all of it, especially some of TJ's books, it's a very tight image. It's not even really tight aggressive. Some of his earlier books was mainly just keep yourself in a safe situation and then you're just not going to get in too much trouble and hopefully you'll just keep moving up in the pack. And so I think that the best image is, like Daniel says, also is to sit down there and just fill out how the table is and see what kind of image in which they're projecting and then play off against that.
The goal in poker, is to be unpredictable. If people know your image, that means they've got a predictable pattern that you use. So they have to look at you and say, I have no idea what he does. That's the image you want.
Right. Now, Daniel, the real key thing is you have an image and people are watching you play and they're trying to figure out what you're doing. Once you think that they figured out what you're doing, you do the opposite.
That's
so
true.
When I've got a very tight aggressive image at the table, I can get away with a lot of bluffs. If I've been playing a lot of pots and splashing around, if I can tighten up then and change gears, I'm able to exploit that table image and get a lot of action with very premium hands.
Well, that's a very good idea, too. You sit there and fold, 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 fold. Now, everybody thinks the minute that you enter the pot, you have the hand.
Of course.
And so then you come in raising 4 or 5 times in a row, and you really pick up a lot of, driftwood, as we like to say. And, a lot of us, some of us players, like Howard Lederer, has built 4 log cabins out of all that driftwood.
Well, it's very important, first of all, to be extremely aware, self-aware of your table image and your long-term table image, maybe what people have seen you do on TV, but also what you've been doing just the last half hour at the table. And then what you need to do is always try and create as much of a difference between how you're actually playing and how people think you're playing. And if you do that, you're going to win.
But don't lose track of reading people, too, because that's important.
Cloney, what is your image, do you think, when you sit down at a table?
I think mainly my image is probably tight, aggressive image, and I think that's how most people see me. And for the most part, they're probably right. And until I sit down there, and not only am I trying to set up my image, but I'm also trying to figure out what their image is and what they're trying to project. And as the blinds and the antes are increasing and stuff, then I decide if I need to change it up at that point.
But as a woman, do you have an advantage when you sit down at the table?
I would much rather be a woman in poker these days than actually a guy. I mean, because poker's all about experience. Well, other guys have a lot of experience playing against other guys, but they don't really have that kind of experience playing against other women. So, you know, when you sit down and you're trying to analyze what kind of players and what you're playing against, you know, guys, you're three types of players. They're aggressive, they're tight, or they're a maniac, you know. Okay, and so you've got those types of players, but as a woman, you need to not only think about the different types of players in which you're playing against, but what type of player are they playing against a female? Because that all changes when they're playing against a woman, where they normally might play tight aggressive. You know, they probably are going to be a maniac against you. So then there's lots more that we have to think about when we're playing against a guy.
Especially when you're wearing low-cut shirts.
Well, by the way, Phil was going to wear one. Phil Hellmuth today. Thank God he didn't.
We've all seen his breasts on TV.
How do you get naked on TV so much? He's been on like 4 different programs with his shirt off. Is this something
don't
that
you
you're looking
think I'm
to do?
embarrassed? I mean, I read about it on the internet.
Players, when you're playing, that might work, and a lot of women, you know, you'll see them come out like that, but that works in the low-limit poker. But once you're playing against other pros,
right.
You know, that really
It still work on me.
Well, guys, we do appreciate your insight as always. Thanks very much.
To learn, chat, and play with the pros, go where they live. FullTiltPoker.com.